Welcome to the Floor Academy podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Hadeen, former installation contractor and boutique store owner. Joining me this week is Kerry Lenz of Rice's Floors and More, where we're going to be discussing why the words you choose matter and how people not only perceive your business, but how it helps convey a message to them about how you feel about your brand, how they should feel about your brand, and then how these words can affect how you feel about yourself and your business as well. Kerry started in 2016 at Rice's More Than Floors, which Kerry and her husband Brad took over from his parents, and it has a rich history starting back in 1968 as an appliance store, and then it later added carpet, and it's been technically it's a third generation company at this point. It was started by a different family and then taken over. We'll let her get a little bit more into that and her role within the company in just a minute. I want to remind you that Floor Academy is here every week bringing you the business discussions you need to go from owning a job to owning a business that actually frees up your time and allows you to do the things that you want to do. I know that you started a business just like me, and you were like, I'm going to have so much free time and I'm going to be able to do all my hobbies and hang out with my family. It's going to be so much easier. My boss doesn't know anything about what he's doing. I can do it better. And then you got your butt handed to you and you're really disgruntled and you're not happy. But it doesn't have to be that way. There are better ways. There's more efficient ways. Listen in every week as we have a new discussion. Get that one golden nugget, two golden nuggets out of it. Apply them to your business and you can free up your time. You can make it more efficient. You can be more profitable. You can hire the people that you need. You can put the systems and processes in place and you can get to having that free time. And the business goes and it starts running itself in the background a little bit more and more. And then you're able to do the things that you truly want to do and you enjoy life much, much more. That being said, I think that kind of does it for me. Oh no, see, I can't even do this. We got a quick word from Tile Tools. Attention flooring professionals, elevate your craftsmanship with the finest tools and supplies from tiletools.com. From spacers to saws, we have everything you need for flawless tile installations. Plus, we offer top-notch customer service and fast shipping. As a special offer for Floor Academy listeners, use the code FA10 at checkout to receive 10% off your next order. Don't settle for less. Visit tiletools.com today and learn and experience the difference in quality and service that professionals trust. Oh, you would think I could get it right after 6 months, but apparently not. And it's written right in front of me. Man. All right. Kerry, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me. Why don't you tell us who you are, what you do, and why you do it?
Hi, my name is Kerry Lenz. I am the co-owner of Rice's More Than Floors with my husband, Brad. He has been in the flooring industry his whole life. I joined him in 2016. I have 12 years of nursing as my background. I took over starting with the books, but I did tell him when I joined I would not do the books the way his mom had been doing them, paper and pen, that we needed to find a software. So we did partner with Q Floors, and they've been amazing to help keep things moving along for us. We have 11 full-time employees currently, and we recently underwent a brand refresh. So we were Rice's Capital Carpet. Brad had done some research with the prior owners just to kind of see where capital came from, and we decided we were going to go to Rice's More Than Floors. So that rolled out the end of 23 to 24. We did building, remodel, kind of did all of that. So that's been an exciting transition. But I'm here today to just kind of help you understand why words matter and why that's so close to my heart. As a nurse and a mom and a business owner and also a certified life coach, I know words matter. So when we're talking about whether it's a team member or a client versus a customer, what does that mean? As well as what does it mean when we say cheap versus like inexpensive, or can we find something that's more price sensitive for you? So Those are some things we're
Yeah.
going to talk about today, and that clients really rely on us to help them find the best solutions
Mhm.
for their projects.
So you're already saying client and not customer, and I truly appreciate that. And I wish more people went that route. I look at, like, for me, customer's very transactional. It means I'm only after, like, you need to come in, you need to buy my good or service, and you're going to give me some money, and I'm going to go do this thing. And I look at this industry as like flooring just kind of gets dogged on within the trade world as it is. And so I picked up on client because that's what you are to a lawyer. And when you actually look it up, it means to bring someone under your protection. And when I'm looking at a flooring installation, there's a lot of protection that you're providing somebody if you're doing it correctly. And so I thought that was a much better term to use. Why do you choose to use it? Like, what does it mean to you? Like, why do you not opt for customer when you can go on Facebook or, basically any other business? You walk in and they're like, oh, my customer this, my customer that, right? Like, what made Rice's More Than Floors decide to go with client?
So, client came about. One of our team members had mentioned that we're doing more than selling a t-shirt, right? We're doing more than just taking that t-shirt off the shelf and sending it out the door. That we need to build that relationship with the client. We need to build their trust. We need to understand what are they looking for and
Mm-hmm.
how can we help them solve their problem with their flooring. Whether it's an investment in their home forever or they only want it because they're going to sell the home shortly. Like, what do we need to do to help them? So as a client, we're building that relationship. It's not just transactional.
Yeah.
It is, I think in general, most of us know in flooring, from the start to the time the customer client finally decides to buy from us, it's a averages that 90-day cycle. So it's not just a one time in and out. You
Mm-hmm.
are in that client's home, you're potentially working with their builder. There's a lot of people you're helping to navigate them through on their project.
When that was brought to you by the team, and see, now you're saying team member instead of employee, right? Like, all of these little things I can pick up on, and I love it. When that was brought to you, do you feel that when you made that switch, that the team had a different perspective on how people are treated? Because you, like, the connotation behind words, the meaning behind them, and the feeling you get from them, like, customer just makes me feel dirty. Like, I hate being referred to as a customer. It's so, there's nothing to it, right? And so do you find that the perspective around the office changed?
I do. I even felt that in general, just watching our team on the front end in the store, just even how they present themselves improved, right? They
Mm-hmm.
actually came dressed in a way that they felt, you could just tell they felt like, okay, I'm here to help this client. I'm not just transactioning, taking a payment and sending them out the door.
That's awesome. I think it's amazing what happens when want just changing the word, even though they're along the same lines. It's mentally, it changes how you view the situation, and then you're calling them team members instead of employees. And so let's dig into that, right? I think, like, employee is very managerial. It's
Mhm.
I go do as I tell you, get this task done. You're going to get paid by the hour, and I don't necessarily care about you. And before we got into it, you were talking about your role within the company and life coaching and stuff, and you're here trying to build a culture and build people up, and I think that's what's missing in a lot of small businesses, is the ability to take somebody, mold them into a better person, whether they stay or leave, and just know that that's your role for that time that they're in your life. You've got to be there to improve them. And I think when you have
And
team
whether it's
members, you're willing
our
to do that.
And whether it's our crafts people on our team or our team members, sales associates, our operations professional, one thing that I learned in nursing from one of my most amazing mentors was dress for the position you want. And that doesn't always mean dressing because I want to be the next CEO. It might be dress for how do you want your client to see you, right? We do a lot of custom work, a
Hmm.
lot of big new homes, a lot of walk-in showers that are going to be accessible for people for years and years. Those aren't small ticket items. Those are big ticket items. So how do you want to dress so that your client trusts you and knows like they know what they're doing and they take pride not only in their work, but in themselves and how they show up?
Hmm. Yeah, I know. One of the companies I work with in my mastermind groups, the leads have switched to button downs, and that's like a way not only to like, hey, I'm the lead craftsperson in this instance, so they get a little bit of differentiation, but then the appearance is a little bit cleaner, and then I think at one point we talked about they've kind of, I think they tiered it, and so normal team members get like just gray t-shirts or something, and then guys and gals that start off get like a different color for their like 90-day probationary period, and then it's a big deal to like get handed the new shirt, and there's a way to like kind of work your way up through the system. And so it's all tied into not only how you refer to them, but in how you look and present yourself. As you know, these roles have I don't know, you get to feel better as you move up through them, right? You get to take a little bit more pride, you get to be a little bit cleaner. You're
Our
referring.
recent brand refresh we did for our crafts people, they now all have obviously the new logo wear, but their names are have been put on all
Mhm.
of their clothes that they have because obviously safety reasons, we can't have them wearing magnets like we do inside the store.
Yeah.
So we wanted to make sure when they go up to to the home, wherever they're going to go, or to the business, that somebody knows who they are. Because a lot of times prior, people would tell us in the community, like, oh, we saw the Rice's team, but we weren't sure which ones. So we made sure now that their names are on there
Yeah.
just to help. And the other thing we do is we use Swell, and so we send out a picture. We had
Nice.
professional shots done of all of our team members. So whether they're going to measure or they're going to install,
Hmm.
we have their picture and we send it to the client ahead of time so they know who's coming to their door.
I love it. And it's such a simple thing. The HVAC company I use locally here in Phoenix from my house will do that. When there's a service call, they text you and they say, this guy's on the way. It sends a picture of them so you kind of know what they look like and who's coming. And for a long time, plumbers, electricians, HVAC guys and gals have all had button ups and, you know, with embroidered names on there. And it's funny that we, for some reason, the flooring industry likes to stay looking only at itself, and we don't look at other service-based industries as like, what are they doing well? How are they presenting themselves? And then we sit here and we're like, nobody respects us. I can't figure out why. Well, like you said, appearance matters. And so why don't we take a clue from other entities and then say, hey, why don't we match this? So I love that you did that. I think that's a great way to step it up.
And kind of going along with what you were saying about the other trades, sometimes I hear even from our team, they'll say like, "But we don't have all the certifications, or we didn't have to go to school for
mm-hmm.
years and be apprenticed and then do this." I'm like, theoretically, not our current ones didn't do it, but some of them have been in the trade for 20 years. And when I go back and I look at what the tile Brad will sometimes bring it out what the tile standards were even just 10 years ago. The book was this big, and now
Mm-hmm.
you pull it out and they send it to you, and it's like huge. And so our team attempts to stay on top of everything that's coming out and works together. So
Yeah.
it's comical when other people come in that maybe are DIYers or just do it on the side and they're like, I've done it the same way though for 20 years. I don't need to change it. And we're like,
Yeah.
so again, it's as individuals in that industry, we have to start speaking up for ourselves and setting
Mm-hmm.
ourselves apart from the others, whether it's a DIYer or somebody who just does it on the side. If we're doing it full
Yep.
time, what do we know that others maybe don't know?
That's and I think a great thing for them would be if any of them have business cards and they've went and they got their certified tile installer or they got a CFI certification or a NWFA, NFIC. If any of the craftspeople have gone and gotten any of the certifications and they have a business card, I would love to put it on there. If you have info about them on your website, you can put it in there. Even I was, like Schluter doesn't certify anybody, but you get a, hey, you went and participated in this training certificate. It would go like at my boutique, it would have gone on the wall. I had my license, I had my CFI certification, I had that I was a member of the NTCA for a little bit on there. Like, it's not, that's the only stuff I have. You're right. There is no formal training school for flooring installation. And so that is the college of like, hey, I went to this event and the Utzen people taught a class and they gave me a certificate. If that's what I can claim, at least I'm out getting an education, right? When the next craftsperson comes to your house, are they a craftsperson or are they just an installer? Because what do they have to back up what they're saying? And so
absolutely,
it's very important. I think that showing that stuff off and being proud of it and finding a way to do it, that's another way to help kind of convey the message of how to differentiate yourself from other companies.
And I also think it's huge in how do you justify as a business why your pricing is maybe higher than a big box store with an installer out there, right? Like, what sets me apart as kind of a smaller boutique Rice's More Than Floors that can really work with you and bring your vision to life one-on-one from start to finish versus I go to a big box store, but it's a lot less expensive, right? I can find tile there that's cheaper than I can come into you, but you don't get the service that comes with that. So
yes, even saying boutique, like you guys, how big is the shop? It's not overly huge, but I mean, I know that you have to have some warehouse space and stuff.
Of course, you'd ask that, and I don't know the exact square footage. It's a fairly decent size. I mean, we aren't super boutique-y, but we are definitely the place that most people in our area come to when they want that unique project executed start to finish. Most top-end houses, if it's tile, if it's hardwood, do we do laminate and some other click floors? Absolutely. Do we do sheet vinyl and carpet in our area in the Midwest? We sell actually a lot of it.
I believe it.
Most people don't, but we do. Whether we have the Mennonites or the Amish in the area coming, they're very, very continuous supporters of us, and we're thankful for that. But yeah.
Well, I think you're getting that this all ties together, right? So now we're presenting our brand using certain words to project an image of ourselves that we can offer this unique, glamorous, individualized experience. Or you can go to said box store, you walk in, it's a 22-year-old person that learned about some stuff on a computer in the back, and they say, I think you need this. That's really reassuring, right? And then you can go home and you can do it on your own, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, or maybe you can buy the product from them, but then you have to find your own installation crew, and who knows what you're getting with that. Or you come and you pay a little bit more money for an individualized experience where you are educated and treated like royalty throughout it. And you get exactly what you're paying for, along with a warranty and peace of mind. And that's where I like to compete, right? So I said I had a boutique, and it's because I had 255 square feet of office space within a larger office. I played the game with the local distributors, and they said, well, you need a brick and mortar. And I was like, well, I can rent this office within a larger office. And they were like, oh, all right, you got a brick and mortar now. And they gave me materials. So I was able to sell out of there. But it changed my business because I was able to get better pricing and more options to provide people, that I then became competitive with the other stores in my area. And so it allowed me to provide a better experience. And plus saying like, oh yeah, sure, come on down to my boutique. Like, people loved it, right? It wasn't like, come down to my store, and it was come down to my cute little shop, and it was just god awful ugly. But I was able to provide an experience of like, hey, I have this stuff. Let me walk you through what you actually want and need in your home, and I'll provide it for you. And that was more important than the look. So
Yes, and one thing I've found as well is Brad started, I mean, he's always been in the flooring industry with his mom and dad owning, but what he did is he focused in on tile and hardwood, those that a lot of installers just didn't want to do back in the day. And his dad ended up throwing most of that stuff out of their store, and Brad helped bring it back. He saw there was a need there. There's clients who want it, but who's going to install it? And how do you do that when it's a subcontracting team versus a true W-2 installer? So most of our 11 team members, some of them are craftspeople that specifically do tile. So we know on those big projects where there can be a risk, right? If you're not doing it the way that the industry has set in standard, you could run into a big issue. So we take pride in having that when we have a client come in and they want to talk to us about their project, they're going to redo a bathroom, they want to make it accessible for them in the future, we'll have their contractor come in, our crafts person will be there, our sales will be there, just so that they can see every bit along the way how we're going to help support them in that process.
Which is great. I don't know that happens enough, right? A lot of times you're working with a store and the prospect comes in, they deal with the salesperson, they decide to move forward, so they become a client, and then this random work order gets handed off to an installation crew one morning. They may or may not be taking the materials there that morning, and they walk into it. Like, this is why I could never subcontract. It drove me nuts because I never knew what I was walking into. And you're told, oh yeah, it's going to be empty. And then you show up and the house is filled with furniture, 5 dogs, and there's poop all over the floor. And you're like, this doesn't match what the work order says at all. And then immediately you're on the phone and you're like, hey, there's this, we need to change order for this. We got to do this. And then that person has to call. Like, I like that you're bringing the whole team in and they can sit down and look it over, and everyone knows who's involved and what part they play. That's so much better for everyone involved to have a much clearer picture of what's happening.
When I think so often we want to give, in our store, we attempt to give our client at least a little bit of a visual on what it's going to look like using Measure Square. But when you have an actual craftsperson there, they can look at that and sometimes tell you, like, wait a second, that layout isn't going to work. We're going to have to shift it one way or the other. Or the contractor that's there might say, like, where you have that niche in the shower isn't going to work because there's studs there. You're going to have to move it one way or the other. So it helps the client also understand that there's a lot of communication that has to happen up front before we can even execute what they're looking for.
Definitely. And I think getting that all out there on the table, right? And this goes back to, like, not only choosing your words carefully, but having the right people involved to be able to convey a very clear message to your client. Because if the last thing you want to do is overpromise and underdeliver, right? I'd rather underpromise and overdeliver. And by going in from the beginning and setting these expectations, you run a much smoother project, as well as keep your timelines a lot cleaner because you're anticipating the problems up front. I know that most salespeople don't have installation experience, and while I wish they did, it's probably never going to change. But as the craftsperson going in and bidding the project, I'm able to look at it from a completely different perspective, where I can nitpick every little detail, and I see exactly what's going to be coming at me as I get there, and I'm able to anticipate it. And there's probably a better way to do it. I think I scared people a lot of times because I had so much information, but I'm able to see all the stuff that the salesperson can't. And so there's probably a right time to address it, but it definitely gave me an edge over other people coming in who would walk in, they'd look at a house for 15 minutes, throw a number out, and they were on to the next thing. Whereas my average bid time was probably about an hour for going in and just having that discussion with the client to go over the project as a whole of, okay, here's how we get you from point A to point B and all the little side details in between.
Which is
And
why in our organization, we have a project site advisor, right? We call them a PSA, and they're the
okay.
ones who are going to do that site visit, and they're able to pick up on little nuances. Most of them that are doing it, not all of them, but a majority of them for us do have some installation background. So they are sometimes looking at things a little bit differently than just looking at it as a sales associate. They're able to pick up on like, hey, when I was walking, I always find it fascinating. They can walk over a carpeted area and oftentimes feel that there's, a hump in a certain area.
Hmm.
Without even having to bring in a straight edge or a laser or any of that, they're
Yeah.
like, oh, this isn't going to work. I'm like, oh, or they'll pick up on, hey, did you see that base? That's 3 pieces. We have to figure out like, what are we going to do with that moving forward and how are
Hmm.
we quoting it? And I was like, oh, that's
Yeah, it's little nuanced things, but a project site. Okay, so going back, right? Project site advisor. I think.
yes.
Do you have unique names for each type of staff member so that everybody can have like a? I think having a title that you own matters, right? I'm not just a lowly team member. I bring this to the business. I provide this experience or service within what we do. And it gives me something to be proud of and own it. So is there, right, you have craftspeople. I'm sure you don't have just like a operations manager. They might have a different title. So what are some other titles you use around there?
We have logistics in the warehouse because they're a lot more than generally when you hear warehouse, you think they're driving a forklift, they're
Hmm.
maybe pushing a broom, like, but our guy out in the warehouse does logistics. So he's unloading trucks, he's making sure that stuff is all staged for our team when the project's ready. He's notifying the sales on the front end that your material's here. And if something's wrong with it, he's doing that. He's also making sure vehicles are ready for our craftspeople if it's going to snow. Typically the night before, all of those vehicles get brought into our warehouse so that they're ready for the team to roll in the morning, things like that. So
Hmm.
he's a logistics, and then we have an operations professional, which some people might say a manager, sales manager,
Hmm.
but really she's doing a lot of behind the scenes work as well as keeping the team on the front end moving along with what do they need. If they're struggling with the payment, she can help with that. She's looking at scheduling, all of those things. She works very closely with Brad and I to make sure the operations day to day are moving forward.
Okay. What are your sales professionals?
We call our sales professionals have landed on sales associate,
Okay.
meaning that they are advisors, not just for our clients, but for our craftspeople, logistics, PSAs. They're kind of working with everybody.
Hmm.
So just like a financial advisor is kind of helping you navigate all the different routes of how you can invest, the sales associates are doing those things,
Okay.
same things. They're advising.
Do you have any designers on staff or no?
We don't have any like I don't want to say certified. We don't have any designers on staff. We do have two sales associates that have background in
Hmm.
design and very good at pulling things and getting it all together. But as far as having like a interior design degree or any of that, we don't have that on staff.
Okay. And then are there different levels to your craftspeople? I've always been. I hate the word helper. I despise it. I wish people would stop using it because I feel it's very limiting and they're just there to hand you the tile or mix the thin set or they're there for grunt work. There's no advancement opportunities whatsoever. So I've been very big on apprentice, which is more union track based, but if you're hiring someone that you would hope becomes a craftsperson one day, then why are you calling them a helper? So do you have any terms within that if somebody comes in and they start off very, very green, do they get a different title than, master
Their job
craftsperson?
descriptions are the same as the senior ones. They come in if we're hiring them as craftspeople.
Okay.
Um, Are they going to be under somebody? Absolutely. Are there ways to advance? Yes. Brad's background obviously is in install.
Hmm.
So he's passionate about we can't bring in the younger generation or the new team members and call them helpers because nobody wants to be that person that's just doing all the grunt work. They want to learn. So when they join, they go right with one of our senior craftspeople, and that person knows like, yes, they're going to do some of the grunt work, but you're also training them as they're going.
Hmm.
So.
Excellent. I'm going to interrupt us real quick. We got a quick word here from Utsen. Utsen has your floor installation needs covered with our extensive range of high quality products. Whether it's our moisture mitigation system for concrete slabs, subfloor prep products, tile and stone installation systems, or our tooling, we have the solutions for your project. We also provide expert guidance to help you choose the right solution, as well as technical support for your job site. Learn more by visiting our website, downloading our app, or connecting with your local rep. Again, don't fade that app, guys. The Utsen app is absolutely amazing, and you can find your rep right on it. There's a search tool. It'll give you their phone number. You can call them immediately. And my local rep has been nothing but absolutely fabulous. So I'm very excited that this sponsorship opportunity was able to be developed, and he helped make it happen. So go out there and get to know your local rep, no matter what company it's with. All right, Kerry, we're here. We're talking about all how the words matter, why we have, team members instead of staff or employees, and clients and not customers, and projects, not jobs. There's more that goes into all of this, though, right? This is like a base level of how we can present ourselves, how the clients come and view us as we talk about it. But you go a little bit further within your company, and you mentioned previously that you have a life coaching degree. And so team members aren't invested in enough, in my opinion. It's all, again, I think a lot of small businesses, especially owner operator installation crews, struggle to really understand what it takes to run a small business and grow it. And I'm paying you, go get that stuff done, do it as quickly as possible so I can maximize what I can pay you and what I get paid, and we're on to the next thing. Whereas you're looking at investing in a team and not only creating a better individual, but a better business. So how does that life coaching play into the words we choose, and how connotation affects how we view ourselves, right? Like, what is this other side of building all this up that you do within the company?
So a lot of it has to do with like how does the team see things? So often as an owner, we'll say we have an open door policy. You can come in whenever you want. Well, most of us aren't going to go in and just stop in and tell our boss anything besides maybe we're going to stroll in there and complain about something. And so when the team member does that for me, I oftentimes will listen to them, and I have a piece of paper and I write fact on one side and impact on the other. And I'm listening to them tell the story, but finding what are the facts. So one thing that I know most of us deal with is, oh, there's this client that came in and they have this problem, and I don't think we have any ability to help them. And what are we going to do? I ask the team, like, what can you do to help them? This is an opportunity. This isn't a problem, because now we have an opportunity to help this client customize what they need. Maybe we're not replacing something, but we're going to upgrade something for them. What does this look like? Like, how can we not fall into that negativity sometimes that clients bring in with them because they're going through a remodel and they're sick of the mess by the time they get to the flooring, and they're tired of the dust, and they're tired of people being in their home. So like, how can we help them? What does this look like? What are the facts? They need flooring. Okay, do we have something in stock or don't we? Do they want to order something? What's their budget? Where are we going to be at? How can we help them accomplish what they want, and not for lack of better words, waste so much time and energy on the negativity and the drama sometimes that comes around certain clients when they come in. So really working on them to find what's the facts, what do we really need out of this, and what's the impact that we're going to have.
No, I really love that. I think that's a great way of looking at it. Like you said, it's easy to get sucked into that negativity very quickly and jump on that bandwagon and want to empathize with the client and be like, oh, I get it. Yeah, nah, nah. And then, but that quickly changes what you're able to do. And so when you're saying like, how can I go and find what's the opportunity? What's the challenge to overcome? And I'm looking at that and then I'm presenting solutions to them and telling them how great I can make their home and their life. I can probably bring them around to have a different attitude and make them start feeling positive about their project again, which is going to be win-win for everybody. Yeah. So that's great advice.
The other thing I have worked with the team as a whole on is when somebody comes to you, whether it's a client, and as you know, in the flooring industry, we're the last ones in. So when the house is delayed and they're delayed moving in, it's always the flooring team who's in trouble, right? Heaven forbid, it would be the plumbers who were weeks and months ahead of us doing the work that nobody can see. It tends to be, you're pushing us behind, we can't move in. So instead of engaging in that, because sometimes clients will come to you and you're like, what do I say? Like they're kind of unloading on me and you don't want to kind of feed into it because then it just makes it feel like we really are the ones who delayed their move-in. I tell the team, I'm like, just say something as simple as, that's good to know. You're not trying to defend that it wasn't you that pushed their project and their move-in day behind. And you're also not falling into that negativity and that drama that they have going on. You're just acknowledging that you did hear what they heard, and we're going to move forward. We're here now. Yeah. We're going to do what we need to.
No, I like that because it also isn't going to help you to sit there and be like, no, the plumbers pushed you 2 weeks and then the framers pushed you a week. Like it was them. It was that. You don't want to start pointing blame at other local businesses because it makes you look bad as well. So I think that's a great way. Like acknowledge, hey, I hear you. I'm sorry that you're going through that. Here's what we can do, right? We're going to come in. We're going to be able to do our thing. We'll have you in a week. I'm sorry you're going through this.
Yes,
it's a major project.
It is good to know, right? Like then you know as the team, okay, they're behind and they're frustrated. So let's make sure that we're doing what we need to stay on track now that we're in and we're starting the project. I mean, I had a craftsperson the other day was working on our house and it's snowy and cold and we have a heated garage attached. So we told him to pull his van inside so he didn't have to unload in the cold. And I noticed he had a pair of shoes by his truck door, but he had shoes on. And I said, can you explain to me what that is? And he said, you've set the expectation that when we go into somebody's home, we're putting out our drop clause as we go in to make sure we're protecting their investment, no matter what it is. Even if it's coming out, we tell them, please cover that client's floor. But he said, when it's winter like this in Wisconsin, no matter how much you try to knock off your boots, there's still salt and slush and yuck on there. So he said, I've just learned in the winter, I always have 2 pairs of shoes. I am still covering the floor, but I know that I'm not making my drop clause wet, which could then potentially damage the floor underneath for our client. And I was like, that's what I'm looking for. Like, how can you help versus me always as the owner having to give direction? Like, what are you able to help us do to set ourselves apart?
Which I think once you have that culture developed, right, you've already sort of established it in how you look at assisting your local community. And again, the words you're using to describe your business on your website and in your marketing, and then talking about the projects with the team as they develop and how you talk with the clients when they're in the showroom and in their home and other people are hearing this. That all kind of affects it, and then the team starts picking up on it, and they gain more pride, and then they want to jump on board. And I think this is where probably a lot of companies struggle, is if 90% of the team is jumping on board because you've changed your culture and everyone's starting to come up with these ideas, and they're buying into it, and they're providing more, and they're really, you can see that it's going this way. And then there's this 10% off to the side, and they're still mumbling and grumbling, and they're just not doing it. Get them out of there. Cut them loose, and go find somebody that's going to join the other 90%. Just because they're good at what they do does not mean that they are good for your business. And you know, I don't have the showroom that's doing 5 million and one salesperson that's doing 1 million of it. But if that person that was doing 1 million was affecting the other 90% and bringing them down, I'd fire them. And why do I say that? Because I was the guy that was in the 10%, and I got fired a lot. And it took me a long time to change my attitude and learn how to do it. But I was cut many times for being the pariah of the office.
One thing that I've recently really focused on is I have done a lot of reading and listening to Cy Wakeman, who does a lot of coaching and leadership. So like
Okay.
changing how we're leading is what she's kind of focusing on. And one thing she wanted leaders or owners to be aware of is when you are continually talking about one employee or one person on your team, or another team member is coming, add up all that time you've spent, and you would be astounded at how much money as a business, as an organization, you are wasting on that one person. So just a great way to bring awareness, even as an owner. Sometimes we all have that, right? Like you're like, oh, this one person is just really causing an issue. Like that's great awareness to know like how much waste financially are we spending on this person, talking about it behind the scenes potentially versus having those uncomfortable conversations and going to Kyle and saying, hey, you're being too aggressive with this person. How can you change how you're presenting yourself so that it's not taken so seriously?
Yeah. I think that's a great point, and not only how much time you're spending dealing with them in actual time, but what about the wasted mental energy after the fact? I know we would all love to say that, yes, the shop's open from 9 to 5, and when it closes at 5, I go home and I forget about it. No, you don't. I know it's in the back of your mind, and you're thinking about it, and it comes up, and it's a quick second, or maybe it's a minute that you spend on it, and it's not a lot. But what does that wasted energy do when you want to be with your family, or you want to be out enjoying your free time, and then this thing keeps dragging back in? So, there's a time and a place to deal with people, and you need to really look at it. And well, it's hard to find people. Well, okay, but if you can find, even if it's 1 in 100, spend the time to go through the 100. Nobody said you have to keep them around for a year apiece, and it's going to take you 100 years to replace that person. There's some great episodes on interviewing people and how to build culture. And so I think looking at all of that, right? You're going to have to learn how to find the right team member up front, as opposed to hope you can, hey, this person has great skills, and then try and mold them into the person you want. You've just got to find the person you want to begin with. And sure, that's hard, but I don't think it's impossible.
And as owners, if we're expecting our sales team and our craftspeople and our clients to do certain things, how are we talking to ourselves as owners when I continually hear from other business owners, like, we just can't find anybody, it's ridiculous. And then the next person sitting next to them owns a business in another industry, and they're saying the same thing. I sometimes will challenge them and say, like, but what have you done, like, to try to find somebody? Well, we've used the same advertising we've always done, or the same marketing we've always done. I'm like, have you went to the local high schools and talked to the next biggest generation coming up of the number of people that are going to be larger than the baby boomers are just going to start graduating? Has anybody went and tapped into them and asked them and got curious and encouraged them to look even into the flooring industry? Like, what does it look like? What do you have to have for an investment up front? There's plenty of people out there that don't want to go to college, but they don't know what other options are out there.
Yes. Well, then the big excuse is going to be, oh, well, they're lazy, right? They've been labeled lazy because they've grown up with screens and short attention spans and all of that. I'll counter that and I'll say, who's presented them with something that they can become passionate about? Because that's going to override a lot of things very quickly. And so can you find a way to find something that they're passionate about and intertwine it with the job you're pitching or the career path you're pitching? And let's go, okay, so if let's not say job and let's say career path. Even as a small business, you can have a career path, even as an owner operator installation crew, right? The person can come in and they can start as an apprentice and then they can become a junior craftsperson and then they can become a craftsperson. Like, make levels within your own company and figure out how to write out like, hey, at this level, this is what's expected of you. When you hit this level, you get this new title. And then you have to learn these things and you reach this level. And just having a clear path will make employees much happier because they know what's expected of them and how to get there. I think that there's a lot of really disgruntled employees within the trades because they have no clue how to get to the next level. At some point, they've been on the job for 2 years and they're like, hey, can I get a raise? No. Why? I can't afford it. Whereas if the conversation becomes, hey, what skills do I need to learn so that I can make more, but, I'm more valuable to you, that changes the conversation. And now I'd be open to, okay, let's look at this. So if you just have that up front, that totally changes how people come and work within your company because now you've provided them a path to grow.
Absolutely. And if you go out and you Google flooring installers to get a salary range, it's difficult to find that. So in your area, in each pocket, it's a little bit different. So it really falls on us as the business owners and the other craftsmen that are in the trade to get out there and just start talking about it. Like, there's always this like negativity around, we can't talk about what we make, but yet any other career path, when I was going to school for nursing, I could clearly see what I was making, what I potentially could make. So why can't we do that with flooring, whether it's sales, design, PSA work, logistics, all of it? They need to know what is out there for me. What are my opportunities?
Yes, there needs to be more clear communication. But I think that's part of this conversation is making sure that we go out and we're great ambassadors for our industry. If you're the person in the back and you're whining and complaining about the good old boys club and how they hold you back and you can't do anything, and you're the guy in the comes and picks up your subcontracting work order and you're mumbling and grumbling how they screwed you over and this and that, like, you don't have to work for that store. You don't even have to be a flooring installer. Like, I've been doing it for 20 years. I don't know how to do anything else. I don't care. This is like career path number 4 or 5 for me. And I'm sure at some point there's going to be another one because I get bored and want to learn something new. But I understand that's not everybody, but that's an excuse, right? Change is hard and most people don't want to go through it. But do you really want to continue to live that miserably? Like, I don't understand.
But I'm going to challenge you, Kyle, because so often we all tell each other, like, change is hard, change is hard. But 9 times out of 10, we're changing because what we're in is hard. So is change really that hard? Or are we just setting ourselves up to be like, this is going to be hard?
Well, I think
change is amazing. Like, it could be.
I think change is hard. You just have to get used to it and accept that it's going to happen. And it's not that learning a new skill set is necessarily hard. It's you overcoming that you have to become a new person. I think we're more afraid to change ourselves than we are of like learning the new skill, right? Like, to go and start building muscle is physically painful. And I don't want to get up early and I don't want to put in the extra time and dedicate. And then I got to eat right. I need to lose weight again. So that's why this is coming to mind, right? I'm challenging myself. But I'm looking at all the negative things instead of the positives of what's going to happen with it. And I need to go focus on that and just suck it up and do what I need to do.
And it's fascinating when you think about it. Like, as until we graduate, we're there's constant change. We're constantly
Hmm.
learning and evolving and doing all this. And then sometimes it feels like you graduate, whether you graduate from high school or college, and then all of a sudden you just kind of fall into this box where you're like, I'm not growing, I'm not evolving. I kind of am, but I don't really want to change anymore. It's kind of like you, for so long, are just evolving and changing. And then all of a sudden you get to your job and you're like, I don't want to change anymore. But that's just
Well,
part of life. Like that's how we continue to be
yeah.
better and learn more and ensure we can stay viable.
I think it's a societal standard here in America that we're not encouraged to continue to grow. It's like you go and you do this thing and then you move here and you set up shop, right? Like there's still kind of this, at least for me as a 42-year-old male, right? So I'm technically the spitting image of millennial as I turned 18 in 2000, that you go and you can still work 40 years at a company and you get your pension, even though like that doesn't really exist anymore. Like that's the image in my head. You finish school, you go, you put your 40 years in, you get your watch at the end and a pension, and you're done. And that's not the image that's portrayed anymore to the younger generations. But I don't know that this image of continuing education, find a way to continually learn new skill sets is really pushed. And that's something that needs to change. Is that something that's done within your business for your team members? Or are they encouraged to go, if the person's just not just, but if they only currently install tile, are they encouraged to go learn hardwood, or are they encouraged to learn the sales side of the business so that they're more well-rounded?
So Brad's passionate in learning and always knowing kind of what's the newest. So we have quite a few training sessions for our craftspeople. We have Schluter come in. We've
Mm-hmm.
had him come multiple times. We have one team member signed up to do the training, the flooring certification. Actually, kind of a funny story, but we've had two now that are now craftspeople that started in logistics right out of high school, kind of started in that role and just evolved in, which has been kind of fun to watch them do. Um, we've had some sales associates go on and get like an online design degree. So if there's anything out there the team wants to learn and grow on, absolutely. We have a lot of, we call them PK, so product knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
We'll bring in the sales rep. Brad wants them to kind of talk to him about the deals and whatever is going on. But then if you want our team to sell your product, you got to go make that connection with our team and you need to tell them why they need to sell their product. You can wine and dine me as the owner all you want, but I'm not on the sales floor every day
Mm-hmm.
working side by side with clients. So if you want your sales to go up, go
Yeah.
teach that team out there what they need to know and why your product is better than the next one.
Yeah. No, I like that. I had a company that wanted to encourage continuing education, and I suggested they put in. We're all like a lot of high level business people are obviously big on reading, right? And so all these business books and self help books and stuff like that, they had them all at their house. And I was like, why don't you put a bookshelf in at the office and make it the community library? The employees are open to it. Tell them, when they're done with a book, they can come sit down with you, have a discussion with you about the book, and then give them a $25 gift card. You want better people, reward them for bettering themselves, because otherwise, like, besides me just doing it, like, that's great, but I need to be incentivized to start. More
Yes.
than likely, I'm going to need something to get me over that hurdle of like, oh, I haven't read a book in 5 years since I graduated. Like, that's not exciting. That's hard. But I think that's a great way that, when you have a larger team and a centralized location, that's probably something you can do to easily get people jumping on this bandwagon to better
That's
themselves.
an amazing way to do it. We did during COVID, there was a lot of fear, obviously, around like, are we going to be able to work,
Hmm.
financial stability, things like that. And we did Dave Ramsey's um, program and we offered
Oh,
it to the team. Like,
nice.
if it was something they were interested in, we would help pay for that
Hmm.
for them, just to help ease the mind. Because I think we were all in 2020 fearful. There was a lot of fear
Yeah.
around like, what happens if I don't have the money? What I mean, I remember having multiple meetings with our team saying, like, financially, we're okay as an organization. We're going to keep you on payroll as long as we can. But when you have, at that time, we had 15 people on payroll, that's
Okay.
a lot of
Yeah.
eyes looking at you, and there's family with them. So
Hmm.
it was a stressful time, but yeah, that really helped
Okay.
kind of just calm everybody.
Well, that was the Financial Peace University that you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which I think is great. That's another thing I've thrown out as an idea. Like, if you as a business owner don't have a handle on your finances, you need to, because you own a business and you probably have team members that you're taking responsibility for and providing a livelihood for, hopefully. But I think definitely, if you can have an understanding of it, and then you can sit there and tell your employees, hey, I'm happy to discuss, how to better your personal finances, right? Like, I'm happy to have you come in. We'll sit down. We'll help build you a budget. What do you want? Do you want to own a new car? Do you want to be able to get a house? Like, where are you trying to go? And helping them build out that plan. The stigma is that a lot of the craftspeople come and, oh, can I get an advancement? Right? They always need money early, and they can't. They're living paycheck to paycheck. But for what we do, there's no reason that it should be like that. This should be a very lucrative trade to be doing, and we should be doing well for ourselves. And so, like, how do we teach people how to live under their means and think about the future? And it's a simple thing. For areas that have a heavily Hispanic community, and they're having a lot of Hispanic employees, if they're not able to speak English, why is a company not? You could probably find an ESL teacher to come in once or twice a week for $50 an hour or something. So make it part of their employment and pay them the overtime or something, right? But, like, what is that going to
Right.
do to better your company, but then better them? And how much loyalty do you then get out of going above and beyond by providing these services, right?
Well, then you also have the English speaking ones that want to learn the Spanish so they can interact with their
Mhm.
installation team. What does that look like? So you can benefit both sides on that, right? You bring them in to
Yep.
help the Hispanic population learn some basic English, but it also helps you as the owner and the rest of your team
Mhm.
learn some of the basics so you can communicate as well.
Yes.
Like, it's empowering for everybody then as a whole organization. At least you can continue to communicate and build. And another thing we've focused on with our team is not so much finding work-life balance. In my life coaching, I always tell moms, like, can you really ever find a perfect balance of work and life? I mean, come on, it's impossible. But can you find a pace that works, and can you blend it?
Hmm.
So we know that everybody has their cell phones and we're always connected to the world, right? That's fine. If you need to quick message your wife because this is going on, or you need to take a call from school because of this. But then also know, like, at 5 o'clock when you leave work, if somebody messages you, you might need to just respond to that as an incidental, like, it's more of finding a pace and find, like, can you blend it in a way that
Hmm.
allows you not to be so stressed that, like, I'm at work and I absolutely cannot take this call from my child's teacher until I'm on lunch. Like, as an organization, can I give some of that flexibility
Hmm.
to my overall team?
And I think that's a
Absolutely.
great understanding of the way culture runs in America now. There's a bleed through of just the way we can communicate so easily. We're not stuck with landlines where you can't necessarily reach somebody as easily. And so knowing that I can get a hold of somebody, like, okay, I'm willing to give that you can go have a reasonably long conversation with your wife or significant other or child in the middle of the day because there's something happening in your family. Cool. You can have that 5-10 minutes. If it's going to turn into an hour, we probably have a problem. But I also know that you're going to go home and you're probably going to plan out what you're doing tomorrow on an install, or a client will message you. And I'm probably going to get that 5 or 10 minutes back at some point. But I have to have that understanding that, there, like you said, there's got to be some give and take in it all. And let's be reasonable and not just coming down on everybody as hard as we can that you're at work and you got to be working. Like, I don't want to be there, right? That's not a healthy
Or that they have to
culture.
continually be punching out because You know, we have some team members who have kids that are going through some things and they need to be available when the clinic is open to be able to answer that call. Absolutely. I
Yeah.
want you to be able to take that. That's very important because you're here working. You're not taking the whole day off. But like, what does that look? I don't need them continually every 4 times a day clocking out for 5 minutes to take a phone call. Yes, if it's an hour long call or they need to leave to go to the clinic appointment, that's very different than
Hmm.
a 5 minute, hey, the lab results are back. Here's where they're at. Okay, I know at night when that person gets home, they're going to be checking something, doing something that's work related. It's a wash.
Yeah. Definitely. There's got to be give and take. You got to be able to figure out, where's the, like you said, there's not balance, but you got to try and find as much balance as possible. I like that you called it pace, right? Can
Yeah,
I
pace
find
and
a way
like
to make it through the
blend,
day?
right? Like
Yeah.
as a business owner, I'm typically at the store from 8 until 2, give or take. But I also know on both sides of that, I'm always on my computer or so there's a blend, right? I don't have like
Hmm.
hard set hours because when I tried that, I got super stressed. I couldn't do anything for my kids after 8 a.m. until, I got done with work at 2
Yeah.
because I was only work. And I was like, this isn't really working.
Hmm.
This is actually causing me more stress than if I just give myself that flexibility. And what does that look like? Kyle might call and say, hey, Carrie, any chance you can help with, this project coming up? I'll take that call while I'm getting my kids from school, but I'm going to then say, can you send me an email because I am not in the office right now to make sure that I don't forget this.
Hmm.
Most of the time, people are not upset because I ask for that. We're
Yep.
talking about it in the minute, what we need to do, and then they just follow up with an email.
Which you know what you should be doing anyways, just as good business practice because there's so much miscommunication. So everything should be documented as it is, right? Hey, we had this conversation. Here's what we chatted about. I just want to make sure. And then you can review it and be like, oh, I misunderstood that, right? Like, hey, let's clarify this. So great business practice anyways. But
Yes.
definitely that's how I started doing it was I would get phone calls during the day and I was spending 30 minutes an hour talking about a prospective project instead of actually installing the project I was on and just losing time hand over fist. And I got to the point where I would I knew I had to answer the phone. So I'd answer the phone and I would say, hey, I'd love to talk to you. I'm currently installing a project for somebody else. Can I call you back at 3:30 when I'm done? Just send me a text with your name and number. And then that, kind of some details about your project and I'll call you back, a couple hours. Okay. Right. But I communicated clearly what I needed from them. They were happy to reciprocate, and then they got them to stop looking for somebody else. It was win-win for everybody, essentially. I was able to do what I needed to do, and they knew they were going to get the answers they wanted instead of ignoring it and then trying to call them back later, and they're like, I already found a contractor.
Right.
So,
Hmm.
like, you've got to find that way to, like you said, blend everything together of, what role am I playing right now, but can that other role come in for a quick second and not take over and I push it back aside
Yes.
and focus on what's actually important. Because when you need to be mom or dad, you need to be mom and dad. And when you need to be business owner, you need to be business owner. But it doesn't need to come in and fully overtake what you're doing.
Yes. Absolutely.
Right on. We are, I want to be respectful. I know you have, what you got the nutcracker to run off to, I believe you said, for the
I
family.
do, yeah.
So I
Both of
want to,
our girls are dancing in it, and
oh, nice.
Brad is one of the dads in the show. So it's a full
Awesome.
weekend for him.
Okay. So I want to be respectful of your time. Is there anything really quickly that we didn't hit on that you want to throw out?
I think the biggest thing is just that everybody needs to be aware that communication is key, and words are really going to set that foundation for how your team and your clients perceive you.
Love it. Any resources you would recommend maybe? Is there like a book you've read that really helped kind of make this clear for you?
Reality-based leadership recently I read by Cy Wakeman is incredible if you're a business owner, and also really good for your team to read.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, Carrie. I truly appreciate you coming on and sharing your insights with us about how you feel that changing this stuff has affected your business, what it's done for the team and yourself, why it matters to you, how it helps present yourself. I loved having the conversation. Everybody, I want to let you know that it is nearing that time again. Time to remind you that the International Surface event is returning to Las Vegas January 28th through the 30th of 2025. That's like right around the corner, right? That's a couple weeks away. If you haven't booked your stuff yet, you got to get a hotel, you got to get a flight. You better do it now because it's only going to get more expensive the longer you wait. And you got to go stay at the really not so nice hotels. And that's not fun, right? Get a good room. Let's see, where are we at here? Whether you're an installer, retailer, distributor, or serve in another capacity within our industry, attending TICE is a solid resource to expand your knowledge and networking base. You can also learn about the newest and industry-leading products coming to market. Stay up to date with the International Surfaces event page on Facebook or visit intlsurfaceevent.com so you can register today. Again, Kerry, thank you so much. You got me out of a jam, and I truly appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Until next week, folks, we will catch you all then.